Man, when he cut all that off and he came out there with that Mr. Clean look and just, I mean, he looked like something out of a Spider-Man villain comic book or something.
Right, Kingpin.
Yeah, Kingpin.
We'll start with, this is a good one from Matt Karcher, who's been very proactive. He says, Magnum, who is the biggest guy you've ever wrestled? I know you fought Kamala and I think Bundy. Any other super heavyweights that you battled?
I think Bundy was probably the heaviest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, Kamala was probably 365, 375 when I wrestled him. Bundy was different bills. I mean, Kamala was very agile to be that big and not look like, athletic or whatever. I mean, you saw him, he could jump up and touch his feet with his hands and I mean, he was very explosive. And Bundy was built like a refrigerator. and I mean, had a great heel. What a great heel look. When he shaved those eyebrows off and did that. I mean, did you ever see him when he was Chris Canyon when he started?
No. Well, he had a head of hair. I remember seeing the head of hair.
And the eyebrow, like a whole different guy. But
yeah, right.
Man, when he cut all that off and came out there with that Mr. Clean look and just, I mean, he looked like something out of a Spider-Man villain comic book or something.
Right, Kingpin.
Yeah, Kingpin, exactly. And he probably had those between those two. They'd have to be the biggest.
How was your interaction with Bundy and stuff like that? I heard he's kind of like an odd cat to kind of get along with a lot of ways, and unfortunately, he died pretty lonely. I think he had some cats that he had and stuff like that. But did you overall get along with him?
I saw him when I first went to Mid-South, and of course, I mean, I had a 1.5-year run there, and that was my first, push to work main event. And he was trying to find his way, kind of too. I mean, I listened to that going, poor Ernie Ladd just browbeat the soup out of him about, trying to give him more intensity and this, that, and the other, because Ernie was a big man and he knew, things that big men needed to do to get over. And so, I was kind of with him when he was, again, finding that character, refining what that would be. But it was always nice to me. Very, I mean, I really don't remember, a handful of people that I ever had any problems with, working with in the ring. I think Wrestling 2 is my only little weird caveat story, and I loved him too. He just I was just with him in the weirdest transition of his entire career, and he was having trouble finding his way.
Yeah, right. Well, no, I remember. So my first introduction to King Kong Bundy was like in 1995 when he returned to like WWE, and so he was like, we had this VHS where he's fighting Razor Ramon and stuff like that. So he's not as in his prime as it would be like back then. But then I got to see once the WWE Network showed up, I binged like all of World Class that they had, and there's this awesome promo of him maybe he's with Gary Hart or something like that, but he's like eating a drumstick on a dock and cutting like a heel promo as he's doing it. I'm like, this is like some of the greatest stuff I've ever seen for pro wrestling. I was like, I'm invested. You got me, Bundy. You got me.
Yeah, no, he was special.
Yeah,
and big guys like that can move and I mean, the one man gang, another guy.
Yes.
That was an incredible performer and absolutely huge. Yeah. So.
And you never squared off against Brody, right? You didn't.
No, I think I was his puppy. He liked me.
Yeah.
He taken me under his wing, and I was never on the receipt of one of his blows. I used to laugh. I couldn't wrap my head around why everybody was so terrified. Because to me, he was just my bud.
Yeah.
I did not think about him or Stan, either one like that.
Right. Good stuff. All right, we'll take some more questions here. You guys are dropping some really good questions here. I'm having a hard time choosing, to be honest. We'll go with Stamps here next. You've been involved in both the wrestling world and the business world. If you could go back in time, would you have done anything differently in your wrestling career to prepare for your life after wrestling?
That's a great, I'm looking back in hindsight, it's kind of, it's a two-edged question because, had I been able to have a long, lengthy career, a 10 or 15 or 20-year run, putting money into things that could have invested over time would have been much more a focus for me.
Sure.
I was on the cusp of the money going linear. So in 1986, I was probably in that top 3% income earners in wrestling, but this was before pay-per-view, and our money was all derived, by how many people came in the building, and we split that up from the main events and made really great money. But I knew that the bigger thing was coming. But when pay-per-view came, it literally took a position that was $250,000 a year to a $2 million a year deal, and being able to navigate life and take and put away significant chunks of money to invest and grow over time would have been something very feasible then. But at the time, we were all living and spending so much going to and from and maintaining a look and a way that we were living a lifestyle. We were living it, but we were just spending everything basically that we had to do it. But it was a different time. I mean, money was different. It was probably worth 3 or 4 times more than it is today. So I mean, obviously, financial planning was not anything that was ever offered up or prioritized with any of the promoters. And I don't know what WWE does today, but I have a feeling they make more things available to put people that would receive it to enable them to plan for a future. I've heard that they'll help people with their education if they want to better themselves and all kinds of different things. So I was right in the midst of seeing the business turn a corner and seeing where it went absolutely linear in terms of income earning potential, because I knew that earning $1.5 million, $2 million a year would not be a drop in the bucket the way things were going, and I was right. I literally laid in a hospital bed for 5 months and watched the whole business shift from where we were just having Starcades in 1986 and doing a simulcast to big time pay-per-views, and it changed the world.
Yeah, wow, that's very true too. What a transitional moment too that was at the time, and very fascinating. It's a man, and I was just talking to somebody, a coworker, how important it is. Like, you think about like the school systems today, and like you never, even when I was in school, they didn't teach you, hey, some basic financing kind of tips about like what you got to do to prepare for life after the fact, where all that stuff should really be instilled into people of like budgeting or doing just different things and making sure that you're covering your bases to start things off and to create yourself a little foundation once you get out in the real world. Because I mean, as we all know, high school is very different from where you're at in the real world. Same with college. So it's very much stuff to think about, and pro wrestling too. Stamps had a follow-up with that too. He actually added, what skills do you think are most transferable from wrestling to other professions?
Communications.
Oh, great.
100% being able to address people, convey a thought, direct a message, leadership values, discipline, hard work ethic, things that have to be instilled in you by the work that you've done. And the guys, particularly ones that came from amateur athletics, football, wrestling, where they're disciplined and focused, their entire lives prior to getting in wrestling, had building blocks. And you take a guy like Nikita. Nikita, was a all-in football player with tunnel vision to go into the NFL, and suffered an injury that it caused him to not be able to be as 100% with his speed and his legs as he was before that injury, and he pivoted and went into wrestling. But again, all that hard work and things that he did to prepare to be the best he could be in that transitioned into him being successful in wrestling, has enabled him to be focused and purpose driven in everything he's done in his later life, ministry, business, everything that he's done. And for me, I had a multifaceted education because I worked for Turner Broadcasting for a couple of years in the Ivory Tower down there in Peachtree and DeKalb, and learned about the corporate end of big business and the good, the bad, the ugly, the swimming with the sharks, the things that you got to be able to do to navigate all those things. So yeah, wrestling, if you were prepared and had become a student of the wrestling world and were striving to be the best that you could be every day and had that kind of commitment and focus, put that same commitment and focus into other things, and you have a really good opportunity to be successful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Communication is so key. And that's with any kind of job or life in general, it's just like how you present yourself and how you make a connection with somebody can lead to something else and just create more opportunities for both parties involved. And